everybody! Hello. This is the Sprinkled with Stardust edition of Kerfuffle. Here we are yet again, just blessed by the best estate agents in the UK. How are we doing, JDG?
I think we're pretty good.
I think we're doing all right, thank you, gentlemen. Thank you very much for
Oh,
asking.
look at it! You're already used to this now. Last year, you were all excited. Michelle, last year you had Corona and you were more excited.
I didn't know at this point. I didn't know, did I either?
Well, that brings me on to a serious point. I'd like to run a clip to demonstrate my next question, because you are now sort of two-time winners. I mean, it's never been done before, the double. You've taken it on the bounce again. It's fair to say, Michelle, in your own Michelle way, you had sort of written this off in your head by writing a letter to the next people who were going to win it, explaining exactly how they should polish the trophy. I mean, this is the person that was preparing for defeat. You left the door slightly open, but the look on your face when they called it. But I want to know if this is going to be you next time.
From the upcoming film True Crimes, please welcome two-time Golden Globe winner, Jim Carrey.
Thank you. I am two-time Golden Globe winner, Jim Carrey. You know, when I go to sleep at night, I'm not just a guy going to sleep. I'm two-time Golden Globe winner, Jim Carrey, going to get some well-needed shut-eye. And when I dream, I don't just dream any old dream. No, sir. I dream about being three-time Golden Globe winning actor Jim Carrey. Because then I would be enough.
So tell me, Michelle, do you dream about being three-time winners or?
Of course, but I dreamt about being second-time winner. But literally, it was just a dream. And I think the dream was sort of like completely shattered the night before when Simon told me he'd introduce me to the next winner. And it might be nice if I thought about what I wanted to say. And that's what I dreamt about the night before.
David, can I just tell you there, when I gave her that great advice of how to appear magnanimous, it was the first time I've ever seen Michelle look violent. They thought that she might actually have to talk to these hideous people taking her prize home with her. I was lucky to make it out the bar.
Well, we have some eyewitness reports from the day. So Mitch Hanley was there. He says he spoke to Michelle and Josh when they popped to their stand as soon as the event opened, and they were telling us how gutted they were at giving up the trophy. After speaking to Michelle and understanding the wealth of knowledge she possesses, you could just tell they had a good chance of regaining their title again. And that proved to be the case. It's very well deserved. Also, thank you, Michelle, for inspiring us with the EA Masters winner pin badge idea as well.
And I've actually another one done, so I can line up.
I love that more than anything. So he mentioned actually the chance, a good chance of regaining it. I caught up with Peter Knight the other day, and he recounted that from a purely mathematical point of view, the chances of somebody retaining the award are 225 million to 1, which I think is pretty impressive, isn't it? So how did you do it?
And are you going to go and buy a bunch of scratch cards tonight as well?
Yeah.
How did we do it? Same good team as last year. Okay. We've got a lot of good people in the team, to be fair, and just hard work. And it was like, if we hadn't won it, Missy wouldn't have been living with, because she wasn't only dreaming it for the last 6 months. She was telling me over bloody breakfast, dinner. What if? And I'm saying, well, just what if don't happen, sweetheart? And I had to pick her up at Preston Station, and I was dreading that. Coming back from in fact, I just no.
What can you say, John? How were you planning to make it better? Was there a curry on the agenda, or did you just have some nice flowers ready?
No, I just wouldn't have turned up, and I think that it might have even been worth me going and staying with the mother-in-law for a few days. It wouldn't be that bad.
I think it's fair to say, Michelle, you have got a great poker face when you do your valuations, but your emotions. Look at this picture. Oh, hang on, it's disappeared. Where's it gone?
Yeah,
so I'm doing magic tricks now. But here you go. Look at that. that kind of says it all. With Josh looking on there in the background. I'm even in the back of this photo somewhere. What
I love is my inability to allow anyone else to get their own trophy was I was just trying to hold on. That's literally when people talk metaphorically about holding on to the coattails of somebody. is literally, and you were not for stopping to get to that stage, were you, Michelle? What did you cover those paces in about 20 yards, I think, didn't you? It was pretty quick, you making it up there.
It was very different to the year before when I was sat there in complete shock and Josh had to say, Mish, they're calling us, you need to move.
Can I just ask the pair of you, what was the difference for you? Were you able to enjoy it more? How did it feel from just the kind of the achievement point of view itself?
I think I was still as nervous as I was the first year. It was still like when they're announcing everything, you still sat there kind of, heart pounding, excitable. So I know lots of people were talking, lots of things, but we were still nervous about it, weren't we? It's still sort of like a big deal, It's you say, oh yeah, we've won it before, yeah, fantastic, yeah, whatever. But it was actually still super nerve-wracking. Sort of sat there knowing that everyone's watching on and sort of walking around the actual event because we won it last year. It was a bit more pressure, I suppose.
It was strange. Were you aware of that, Josh? That people were literally, obviously, they were looking around, obviously, to see whether it was going to be you. So, were you aware of that whole thing? That again, people were rooting for you to get it.
A little bit. I mean, we talked to people during the day about it, and obviously, we've done a lot of stuff where just packing up the trophy and things like that. So we've made it quite a bit of fun about it, towards the end of having the trophy and things. So I suppose it was on our minds anyway, because we talked to a lot of people about it, haven't we?
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the big things we both discussed that was a bit surreal was last year nobody knew who we were. So it was like, hi.
I don't think that is true, just as it happens. But I will concede that everyone knew who you were this year.
I've got to tell you what was really strange was sort of watching the awards unfold. Was they almost double bluffed you because you guys got called up for a small award just maybe 2 or 3 minutes before you got the big gong, and I actually thought, well, there's no chance they're getting called up again now. That's them out of the picture. And that that completely wrong-footed all of us. So we were elated when it's always nice when somebody that you know personally gets these things, and it's great. We find ourselves though 2 weeks later in a very different market, perhaps, in a very different political climate than we went into it. I'm not saying this is your fault, by the way, but there is a correlation. But I wanted to ask Mr. JDG himself, because I think it's fair to say John's got a fair bit of experience in previous markets and previous cycles where there's been ups and downs. He's seen off more than a few chancellors in his time. And I'm just wondering, John, what your advice is to younger agents, perhaps, that haven't yet met that market, and what the difference is going to be this time round.
Thank you for saying the word. Appreciate that. I was saying before, it's really strange because this is probably the third or fourth housing market recession that I've actually been through. And I remember I think it was the first or the second time the Property Academy Rightmove Awards were on, they had a speaker on that said that you can go back as far as you want in history And the British housing market is a 12-year cycle. It peaks at 12 years, it drops away a little bit, it stagnates, and then it goes again. And I think there's a big difference this time to when the last one was 2007, 2008, 2009, is that this time we've got very high employment. Last time we had quite high unemployment. So I think people are probably better able to see themselves through this. Again, if you go back into the 90s when I was here, we had interest rates of 15%.
Yeah.
So I think if people can actually get fixed rate mortgages for the next sort of 5 or 6 years, they can ride themselves through the worst of it. And I think as far as sellers are concerned, is stop putting your house on with the person that's just giving you the highest valuation, and look at the person that's got the experience and who can actually give the best advice on how to sell your house. And that's all I would say to people is, don't panic. We've been here before.
John, do you think it sets a good precedence, doesn't it? Though the fact that you win, I mean, great from your point of view anyway, but fantastically well to show that the independents, smaller independents, can absolutely punch pound for pound harder than anyone else out there, can't they? You can be more nimble in your marketing. You can be more agile in your approach. You can be more empathetic. I mean, I think if there's one thing I still know literally nothing about this industry after almost 3 decades being in it, but I know when I listen to Michelle and I see, those fantastic appraisal videos that you do there, that when I choose to sell my house in Didsbury Border, I will be trying to get Michelle to do it from over at your neck of the woods. It's such a brilliant people person industry, and there is no one more people person than Michelle at the top and you guys around it. And I think it is a wonderful thumbs up to everything that's good about this industry, isn't it, from the independent point of view?
It is, because it's a very personal industry. And you can't get away from that, the fact that everybody's got a story to tell. Everybody wants the hand holding, because people are moving every 9, 10, 12 years, what it might be. They haven't a clue what they're doing. And I think where the small independent can score is on the personal service. And it's very easy for us to change tack. And Missy and I, when Missy's on one of the down periods, we'll go for a wander along the beach and have a chat about, well, let's change this, let's change this, let's just tweak this. I think we can do that. Sorry, Josh.
That's always been something that has worked well here, and why things work is that it's not about what's happening now. It's about looking at what's coming and planning ahead, so that when something happens, COVID was a great example. We already started putting plans in place for what was going to happen if the worst came to the worst and went into lockdown, which we did. And having those plans in place and looking ahead, it goes with all your prop tech, it goes with business models. Being prepared means you're already on the front foot when it comes to any big changes. And I think I've only been here 6 years, but I've seen that you've always been looking ahead. And I think that's a massive key sort of thing that you're going to have to do in order to make things successful.
You don't sit on your laurels. There's always the ability to just keep evolving the business as you need to. So let me ask you this question then. What was there anything major you changed from last year to this year apart from obviously, as we said, the need for the bigger trophy cabinet, from a business perspective, how have you evolved your business over the course of the last 12 months?
I would say the main thing is more training, more investment in the actual team itself, because they get, with all due respect to the guys downstairs, they get sick to death of me bleating on every week about figures and we need to hit this, we need to do that, why don't we try this? I think when you start involving people like Stephen Brown, Julian O'Dell, people see that you're actually investing in them, and we're not just asking them to do more, we're actually putting the experts in the industry in front of them and saying, look, these guys know better than I will ever know. And I think the biggest thing is that we've done is probably training with the people, with our team. And I think they benefit from that, to be honest with you, because they feel more involved. The one thing I've noticed with a lot of estate agents over the last few years is that the chopping and changing, they're always going to the next best things. And I think the fact that you can actually keep a good team and involve them in the business by outside training, and they feel that you're investing in them. It's like they're already looking forward to doing these the qualifications. And I think Rightmove are actually doing something later this year to start it off. We've got our guys prepared to do that. We're already putting hours aside for them so they can actually sit upstairs in the training room and get them qualifications. And I think we all benefit from that, to be honest with you.
Brilliant. So, John, if I'm understanding that right, so you change when you need to, and you're not afraid of change. But where you see some weaknesses in or mistakes being made elsewhere, is that because they bounce too readily without an overall strategy? They tend to follow am I putting words into your mouth? They follow the trend of the moment rather than thinking about things through sensibly.
I think it's very easy for people to come in and do the same thing they did yesterday and the day before and all that. And I think what we've got to do as managing directors of the companies is to keep our team involved with the changes and ask them what it's like. We sat down with our lettings team earlier this week, and basically the question is, we don't have any of the answers. How can we improve your job by outsourcing, by using the likes of Moneypenny, etc., better? And by involving them and changing the job so that it helps them better and they've got an involvement in it, it becomes their responsibility, if you will, rather than just a job that they're doing on a day-to-day basis.
They take more ownership of it because you're giving them that responsibility.
Exactly, Simon. Yeah, and it's not the one thing we don't have here is the big boss telling everybody else what to do. It's a team.
The one thing that all three of you have is that you tireless. A lot of people get to your sort of level and they take a bit of a back seat, and they almost go to sleep on their businesses because they feel that how much better could it actually get. But you guys, you can outwork your competition, but also any member of staff. You put in the hours. You're out there on the coalface valuing. The effort, and we only see the end result of the stuff that Michelle and Josh put out on social media. So we see the kind of shiny front end. We don't see the hundreds of takes that you have to do to get something right, or the research and the prep that goes into your market reports, and all the added extras that you throw in, which a lot of agents say, well, you know what, I don't need to do that, but it's part of your magic mix, isn't it?
Well, it is. I mean, it's things like, the videos, even down to like Dog Friendly Lancaster. I've had so many people say they don't understand why we're talking about dogs. Well, I think 80% of the population have a pet. And if you have a pet, the chances are you actually own the property that you're in. And therefore, you're our target audience at some point in the future. So if we can reach them in different ways, but it's equally, whatever you decide to do, stick with it for a period of time, rather than thinking after 2 videos, that doesn't work. Only 20 people watched it last week. You've got to build it up. I mean, the market report videos and that we do, my first year was probably, if you look at the figures, is very low. But over the years, and I think I'm on year 5 of them now, they build and build. And when I don't get it out in time, I get emails asking if they missed it.
Brand, just getting the brand out there in front of people so they remember us in the future, and it's a bit more fun as well. I mean, statistics are good and things, especially if you're about to sell your house. But if you're not about to sell your house, why do you want to listen to loads of additional statistics? So having that mixture of the statistics plus the sort of fun stuff, it's fun for us to film, but it's also a bit more interesting for people. I've learned loads of stuff on where I can take my dog now because we've done that, and it's keeping us as a sort of local sort of source of knowledge rather than just someone you come to sell and let property, isn't it?
And it's about trust at the end of the day as well, isn't it? Once you're giving them advice on where to take their dogs out for the day. It could be taking their kids out for the day. But the point is, people are going to be making some life decisions based on the advice that you give them, whether it's casual advice about where they can go and eat with a dog, or whether they need to move house at this time. It all boils down to the same thing, that if I connect with you on camera and I think, actually, these are nice people, they're doing fun content, they don't need to, but they're doing it to add value, I think it just instantly sort of registers as somebody who I could put my trust and faith in.
It does, and it makes it easier for me in my video call valuations, because I'm the same person on the video call that I am on the video that they've actually watched.
Yeah.
So it makes it easier. I'm not a stranger. So I find that really, really helps me personally.
So what you're saying, that the more and more you go into places, even though you might not know, they feel like they know you already because of that, just that brand building over the course of the year with all your updates and everything else.
It is, it's surprising how many people on, whether it's a face-to-face valuation or a video call valuation, ask about boots.
Yeah.
No valuation call be complete without boots. I think she's probably sold more houses than anybody else. Going on to, and we touched on this last year when we spoke to you guys, and anyone who keeps up with what people say online in this industry will know that you have a special dispensation from Chris Watkins. You are pretty much the only agent he allows to use the Rightmove share graph with, the pie chart. He doesn't like it with anybody else, but he's given you special permission to do it. Seriously speaking, though, having won this award twice, how important do you think that is to the people that you're going to see? Is it a no-brainer? Like, why would I not use the agent that has been voted as best, twice now on the run? Or is it, in effect, not that easy?
I still use it religiously in every single appointment, whether it's video call or it's face-to-face. But it's the bit at the end that you can pull out to say, and as you can see, by doing it the way we do get the results. And I have both that in what I call my performance sheet and the Rightmove graph. So whether it would work without it or not, I can't say, because I will continue to use it, because why not use it when things are working the way they're working?
But do you remember, Michelle, there were some there's always some sniffy people who always moan about it. We were saying, well, will it make any difference to you over the course of the year? Apart from what it's done for you from a pride point of view, for the team there, obviously, everyone coming together, I can't see how it can't help but be, a lovely USP for you as a business to have stood out at such a prestigious awards. And let's not forget, one of the biggest things that's most impressive about this year is they changed all the source, didn't they, of the data points and everything else there. So to bounce from, getting the Rightmove stats through to, I think it's the 20A stats and layering in even more data points, makes that even more of a standout. Now, that might be too micro to communicate to clients, but winning it 1 year has got to stand out, but 2 years is becoming a trend, isn't it?
Three would be a trend. Go on, sweetheart. You trot off. I think there's no getting away from it. It has a huge plus, the fact that these guys won the award last year. There's no doubt about that. And it even brings out more of the sort of sniping from the other agents, But I think the fact that you can actually produce the figures, and I think one of the most important figures is that it showed last year that we actually achieved between 2% and 3% more than the other local estate agents.
Well, that's fantastic, isn't it? That's critical, yeah.
And that negates the fee.
Yeah.
The one thing we're up against, and it's going to get even more so going forward over the next 12 months, is people are going to start cutting fees to get the stock. Yeah. And it's the worst thing you can do, because you've got a good service.
And John, the only other thing they could do worse than that is to start asking, have they asked you guys out? You haven't seen JDG, have you? And that paranoia will start playing into there, and they'll start thinking, well, we better give them a ring just in case, because if the agents can't stop talking about it, we should certainly give them a seeing to, shouldn't we? So I think it's really good. Michelle, I wanted to ask you one question though that was dear to my heart after telling you to be magnanimous and everything else. What were you going to say to yourself if you were having to force it over, other than trying to grab the trophy off them?
I'd already had that conversation, because John keeps me very level-headed and grounded. Mm-hmm. So where I was saying, what if, John was telling me how great the achievement to be top 1% is. Yeah. And the likelihood is that you're not going to basically bring it home. So then I had a chat with Josh in terms of what if sales get it or what if lettings get it and the department doesn't. We are a team.
Yeah.
And we were trying to work out if that happened, how do we put that to the team that we are still all one team. So yeah, I'd had that. I was prepared, obviously, not to win it because I really felt we wouldn't win it twice, and you kind of put the tin hat on that for me. So my next bit was to kind of say, a bit like Vicky did with me, you know, give him a hug, say well deserved, congratulations, you know, and as Vicky said, I want it back, so keep it polished for me. A little note said that I would be checking it was polished, and I expected a polishing photo weekly.
Excellent.
It was. I was just gonna say last year they had the athletes, didn't they, presenting the awards, who all had very individual and interesting stories. This year we had a fair mix. I think we had the guy from the Thai cave rescue. And we also had the Sky Sports presenter, who I found absolutely fascinating in terms of his attitude towards doing his job. I mean, one thing he said there was that he never takes a sick day because he knows that at his level, giving somebody a chance means that you're out of the game for good. And of course, there was also the TV judge. And they were all very, very lovely and very chatty. Did you have any quality conversations with the talent this year?
I did, because I got put on the speakers table at the front. So bearing in mind I was so nervous because I've never done anything like that before, where it's natural to you guys. So I've got a little microphone on and I got told where I was sitting. I sat down and Helen Sharman said to me, "Hi." She said, "Can I ask, are you a speaker, a estate agent, a supplier?" So I said, "Oh, I wasn't an estate agent." I said, "That's who you are." And as soon as she said Helen, I went, "Oh my God, you're the space lady." To which she replied, "Most people refer to her as an astronaut, actually, but I'll take space lady." And then David Jones reassured me that it'd be really nice on stage. To talk to him as if I was just sat in the living room and to angle myself looking at him and just pretend he's a client asking me a question about selling a house.
That's a nice way.
Did you get anything from the suppliers themselves? I mean, I'm guessing as you walk around, they're going to have a big target on you guys.
Oh, you don't know about this, Simon, do you? So after Michelle and Josh went back home, they woke up the next morning and all they could find was this big silver tray, and they thought, "What are we going to do with this?" Right? But they'd forgotten to pick up all the merch, and we all came together on Facebook and we did a bit of a shout out, and they've done us proud. They've been sending us stuff. The postman with more gear. So what have we got?
Yeah, so today we had. So I am property. Yeah.
Oh, lovely. Great.
Money Penny have sent a very nice Fortnum Mason hamper, which included these delicious shortbread biscuits.
Lovely stuff.
I did actually get this on the day from Amy. You might
those smell good. Yeah.
You can see the smoke coming out. I've been burning it. And I've got Inventory Hive, a little key thing. Also, I've got an orange booklet.
This is fantastic because it does stop it all washing up in the Pacific Ocean in the mouth of a turtle. So anything we can get to you lot rather than David Attenborough have a go at us is a positive thing.
It says we're doing Christmas shopping as well, Simon.
Everybody's going to get a View My Chain candle this year for Christmas.
I think that's what we're going to be heating ourselves with, isn't it?
It could be. Well, can I ask you a question then? As another agent that's going out speaking to vendors and to buyers, and this applies actually for tenants as well. Are you getting people that are looking more closely at the EPC, or that are looking at the how it's going to cost them to heat the house? Are they taking that into account, given that those costs are kind of are all that we see in the headlines these days?
Yeah. I've had 3 conversations with buyers about EPCs when I've been answering the phone booking viewings. And I've even had some sellers talking about selling because of the EPC. My right move rep Sam Barley told me maybe 3-4 weeks ago that it's up to about 23% of people clicking the EPC link on Rightmove.
Yeah.
So obviously people, it used to be less than 1%. So it's certainly on people's minds.
It makes sense. I mean, I remember when they first brought in those hit packs back in the day. I mean, we must be going back 12, 14 years ago. But whenever that was, we never understood why that certificate was going to be important. We knew what it did, but we also knew that virtually nobody paid any attention to it. But it was a bit of legislation we needed to sort of tick a box for. And it's just incredible how that story's changed.
Yeah. It used to be, that was 2009, David, that hit back came in. And it used to be that the only people that used to ask for the graph to have a look at the energy, the EPC, was foreign buyers. And they used to actually come in and say, what's the EPC on it? What's the energy rating on it? And I used to think at the time, well, why do you need to know that? It's, if you like the house, buy the bloody thing,
Or Green Party members.
Oh, good. Now it's political. But now more and more people are actually asking for the energy report, and particularly on Josh's side, landlords are now having to think about how they actually can improve the property. And I think it was a Rightmove that said a couple of weeks ago that the most searched term now is bills included.
Yeah,
people are really starting to have a look at it.
I think it's made landlords, particularly. I mean, I don't know how if you guys manage HMOs or things like that, but I would imagine that anybody that does, who had a fixed cost that included bills and everything else, they can't make it work on that now, surely. So there's probably some very uncomfortable conversations that have to be had with tenants. What's your advice on the best way to approach those uncomfortable conversations? You knew you were going to get one question, right? Here it is.
We don't do HMOs per se ourselves here, but we still we have those sort of conversations coming in about increasing rents and things, which is a bit obviously controversial at the moment. But I think obviously some tenants consider like landlords are just sitting on piles of gold, and all that money just goes into their pocket. But with landlords' mortgage rates increasing and insurance costs increasing, it's obviously not just the general bills. It's just sort of looking back, and we always try to be fair here. It's we obviously work for or with the landlord and put tenants in their properties, but it's having that conversation about that. When was the last time your rent was reviewed? When was why is it going up? It's not. We're quite open with our tenants and our landlords, so it's not your rent is going up and that's the end of it. It's your rent is going up. It's because landlords have absorbed costs for quite a while for you, but now their costs have massively increased, so they have to sort of increase your rent in line with that, proportionally. And we don't just £200 extra a month kind of thing. We kind of try and be fair on all sides, but I think it's transparency. It's not just this is happening, it's this is happening, this is why it's happening. It's having a sort of more of a frank conversation, I think, rather than just a do as you're told kind of conversation.
That's great. So if I can ask you, other than taking it for the 3rd year running, what's next for JDG?
Yeah,
what's the next challenge?
What can there possibly be?
Retirement for me.
I knew he was thinking of the Bahamas. I knew it.
This year said, if I win it for the third, or we win it for the 3rd time, because bear in mind I'm just locked in a little box over there for most of the time.
I'm very honoured, by the way, that you came out of your box for us today.
Thank you, David. They shall wheel me back in as soon as this finishes. And Missy said to me that I can actually start working less hours if we win it for a 3rd time. So the incentive's there for me to work bloody hard this year.
She only means that she'll give you half an hour lunch break, John. That's all that she meant.
That's all I'll give him now.
The importance of clarity in negotiations is just been shown here, isn't it? You need to communicate, you two.
I think, in all seriousness, what I'm looking at already is more outside training. We've got to bring the experts in so we can actually improve again, because we don't know everything. We might profess we do, but we don't. And I want to speak more with Moneypenny to see what they can sort of offer us as far as outsourcing is concerned. So, and it's all about improving the service that we offer to the clients.
Yeah. So, John, I don't know if Michelle and Josh spoke, but Pete tonight was ramming home the point about two of the three main points were about automation and outsourcing. If you can automate things, and there was quite a big argument going on when people were out having drinks about, some people were saying, well, actually, we feel like that depersonalizes the service. But from everyone I could see, all the best agents that I respected say actually quite the contrary. By being able to automate many of those things or to outsource them, if anything, it just allows you to deliver more of the personal service that makes you different. Is that where your thinking's at with this, or do you think you have to be very careful with how much you do outsource?
You've got to be very, very careful with how much you automate, but I think you can outsource to the right people. There's so many things that you can outsource. They're all over the place, but it has to be to the right people that have the same sort of beliefs that we do about customer service. Automation to a much smaller extent. Outsourcing, I think so, because it's becoming more difficult to employ the right people that fit into, with the right sort of mentality.
Is that just down to where we are with full employment, or is that just a factor of whatever we are, Generation Z and everything else, having that slightly different work ethic to whatever the rest of us were used to?
The massive thing I've seen, Simon, was COVID. People before COVID, it changed their outlook on life. Yeah. It used to be that we got up to come to work. Yeah. Now we're going to work to pay for the social life. And it's
John, we were all laughing in PropTech world. We've been doing that for years. Up in our ivory towers, we've been doing this for decades.
It's really weird, because I say to these guys all the time, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, I'm travelling up from Lytham all the way to Lancaster every day, and the motorway is packed. Yeah. Monday and Friday, it's like 5 or 6 years ago. And people have got this. They want more flexible working, and I haven't worked it out yet, and it's probably down to you guys to help. I think we need to go down a flexible working route so that we get the best out of our people. And this nonsense that we do viewings between 9 o'clock and 5 o'clock, we've got to become more flexible and maybe have people working 4 days a week, but they work until 8 o'clock at night.
But from that, you will get greater loyalty and probably commitment from the staff when they are in the room, aren't they?
Exactly. But we've got to change with people's requirements and wants.
Really interesting.
That's how you keep the personal side going as well, because automation and outsourcing is great, but you can't become complacent with it. You can't try, they're doing that, I don't have to worry about it anymore. It's back to what we're saying, you're constantly reviewing, but if you don't have that base of a good team that you're keeping happy, then you lose that important personal side of things where people are getting that good sort of customer service. So
what scares me is automation, if I'm honest.
It's really difficult. I mean, I've always been a massive fan of it, but automation done wrong is probably the most dangerous thing, as you've highlighted it. If you take your eye off the ball, if you just get it that little bit wrong, it can all fall down very quickly, can't it?
Well, we've all watched Terminator 2. We know where this ends.
I mean, since coming back, I've had 3 conversations with clients who are coming across to us, who are estate agents.
Yeah.
And the biggest thing that's been with them all is lack of communication.
Yeah.
A guy spoke today. He said he hadn't spoken to the agent in over 2 weeks, despite calling, leaving a message. And what's the tin hat for him is a WhatsApp message to say, you've got to view him tomorrow at 3 o'clock.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He says, you pick up the telephone to tell me I've got a viewing at 3 o'clock.
But there's a reason for that. So the call avoidance isn't just down to laziness. I mean, Stephen Brown will tell you all about this. I'm sure he has. But it's not just down to laziness, it's how you manage the expectations of the client. So the likelihood is the reason he was dodging that guy's calls was because he had nothing positive to tell him. And the minute he got a viewing, that was the closest that he had to some sort of Hail Mary that he could throw at this guy and say, okay, look, we're doing part of what you asked us to. But I think clients in the long run will respond better to you if you picked up the phone and said, listen, you know, I wish I had some good news for you. I haven't right now, but this is what we are doing in order to try and make that news. And by the way, Mr. Client, these are 3 things that we think you could also do in order to widen those options. I see a lot of these Australian agents boasting that they call all their clients every morning at 9 a.m. How? Yeah, exactly right. You'd be there all day. But seriously, in a business as big and as well known as yours, and particularly where you've got personality, so they're picking up the phone and they're asking for Josh and they're asking for Michelle. And they're wanting your time and attention. How do you juggle being able to give them what they need and communicating with them? Because it's huge, isn't it?
It is, but it all starts when Michelle or Chris, our other valuer, as soon as they gain the instruction, that property is allocated to one of the sales negs, and that sales neg has to contact that person and say, look, I'm the person that's looking after you. I'll be calling you at least once a week, and I'll be calling you with all the feedback from every single viewing that you have. And it's got to start at the very beginning where you set the level of service. There is a level of trying to set the expectations, but you've got to exceed that. And this is why I keep banging on to my guys downstairs. If somebody's expecting a call from you once a week, make it twice a week. You know, and let's go that extra mile. And the thing that you said that is so spot on, David, is that people run away from that arsey client because they don't want to call them because they're going to get their head ripped off. But the longer you leave it, the clients are more interested in your head off.
It's that whole eat the frog thing, isn't it? Make the difficult calls first and everything else.
Exactly, and that's our sort of policy here. Is, you know, if you've got a crap call to make, get your small win in at 9:10 in the morning. The rest of the day is easier. You're not thinking about that horrible call that you've got to make all the time.
I just realised I didn't do the dishwasher, so the missus is going to shout at me. So,
and on that note, I'm going to thank you guys for this invaluable information that you've given us, but advice as well. And I think there, as an example to any other agent, no matter the size of the business, because let's put it in perspective, you are a small northern independent, aren't you? And you have come out and you against massive businesses, and you've managed to take that trophy for the second time. I'd like to make an appointment now, if we could. Could we just diarise a year ahead and do this again next year?
And don't forget, you can't break you've got to go to the Kerfuffle pre-party, because as we know, that is a vital part of your preparation for making this work. So we're going to do that. Yeah, I think that's entirely right. For from an entire industry, and it wasn't. We were talking to a lot of people. Before I tried to rugby tackle you. You know, we were sat next to a very big corporate agency, and they were as pleased as punch as well about it. And I think when you get that kind of admiration from all parts of the business, suppliers, agents alike, you're doing something very special. And I think that comes down to both the achievements that you do and the type of people you are. So I think, you know, fantastic worthy winners you are. And although the odds are probably 2.2 billion on winning it a third time, I'm putting my money on now.
And we're gonna leave with the words of Mr. Jim Parker. We are what we repeatedly do. Excellence, therefore, is not an act, but a habit. Well done, the whole of the JDG team.
What I repeatedly do now is I'm off to Wetherspoon. So, guys, fantastic, fantastic stuff again. Well done, guys. Have a great one.
Thank you very much. Cheers. See you later.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.